Hello guys, I'm back. Hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Dean. Welcome back to the channel. First of all, a really big apology for anyone that's been waiting a better part of a year and a half for this part 2. Really sorry. Life happens, but here I am. New room, new studio, new house. More importantly, new beginnings, so that you can expect to start seeing a lot more from me in the very, very, very near future. But until then, let's finish off this series, this 2-part series, with how I made this track. Now, the second part of this video, we're going to be focusing on 3 things. So the kind of all the leads, the synths, the acids, the breakdown, and stuff like that. So we'll start off just looking at this section. So this is where you've got 2 kind of sounds really. You've got the acids and you've got your IR, which basically stands for intro riff, intro lead, intro melody. Take your pick. Let's remind ourselves what this part of the track sounds like. Okay, so let's start off just looking at the acid. On its own, it sounds something like this. So really quite straightforward acid 303 sound. So we're just going to go through kind of what the mix decisions I made and what each plugin I added essentially adds to the mix. So we'll start off with everyone's favorite EQ. Just kind of cut some of the bits that doesn't really need. The next thing I added was this saturator. I really quite like this. This gives you tube and tape saturation in one, along with high pass, low pass filtering, and all importantly, the ability to level match for an output gain. This really kind of chunks out the sound. Have a listen to the with and without. And if you notice as well, something that's really key here, if you look on the meter, it doesn't actually change. Like, it's very, very, very small amount of volume change. So the sound that you're hearing, the kind of the beefiness of it, it isn't impacting the overall dynamics because it's not peaking as much. The next thing I had was this exciter, a multiband exciter, part of Ozone 5. Just looking to kind of give it a bit of something in the mids and a slight bit up the top in the high, a little bit of air. Next one we have Nova. This is an EQ and a dynamic EQ all in one. So I've rolled off everything here up to 250. I think this band here, I believe, is slightly as dynamic. So I just felt that it was just coming a little bit hot around about this range here, which is what is that? It's just under 1K. Yeah, 930 hertz. Next up, we have another part of Ozone 5 imager. Basically, all I've done here is I've completely monoed the low end and slowly kind of sloped it up. It's still a little bit more mono than it was before. It was definitely the original kind of sound and synth. It was a very, very, very kind of large sound, which is great if that's what you want. But obviously, I wanted this to kind of sit behind 2 different leads. So I had to essentially do this to help it fit. And that's such a different sound without it, isn't it? And then the last part here I added was Pancake. Now this is essentially just to get a little bit of snaking left and right. Not a lot. I've only set the mix to what is that, 20? Is that 33% or 20? I'm getting blind. 33%. So if you just watch it, kind of just very slowly, just slowly takes it a third left and then centers and then third right. This is one of my favorite plugins, completely free, by the way. I definitely recommend if you're looking for any kind of panning plugin, definitely go out and grab it. Last plugin here is just a filter CM. Really, it does exactly what it says in the tin. We're not going to bother talking about that. And then this obviously has to interact with my intro riff, because these two are going to be playing a lot over each other, and they need to, not only just in the intro but also in the outro, so they need to work together. So this is what they both sound like together. As you can see, the idea is for the acid to still be really kind of fat and ripping, but importantly to sit behind the intro riff, because the intro riff is definitely the kind of key piece of the track at this point in time. Okay, so let's go and see what we did on the intro riff. Straight out of the when I rendered it down, it was already pretty much there. Really didn't need too much work. I think it's literally just a touch of top end EQ, but this really makes an insane amount of difference. This really kind of pushes it up a little notch in the mix there, if you ask me. And again, filter, not going to bother looking at that. Last one here was Supermassive. Now this, the eagle-eyed amongst you will see that the mix is set to 0, so it's not actually doing anything. But there's an automation on it, which I think is this delay curve here. So it kind of just blurs the sound going into the breakdown. So let's just remind ourselves how that works. Now we're going to come back to the breakdown. We're going to go straight over to the main riff while we're looking at VSTs and sound, these kind of sounds. We'll just stick here. So the main riff is essentially composed of 3 parts. We have the kind of main sound, which sounds something like this. Let's meet that, so that. This also has stacked some chords on top. And it also includes a background pad for added kind of weight and depth. There we go. So let's see what this sounds like all in one. Quite a fat sound, very raw, very rough, really kind of in your face, which is exactly what I was trying to go for. So the main riff, first of all, contains a few plugins. So the first one, let me just the first one is one of my favorite plugins. I just find this is not the cleanest EQ, not by a long shot, but that's why I like it. It's kind of rough. It kind of does add a little bit of coloration. It's definitely got its own sound, and I just think it just sounds really good. What you're listening for here is kind of bite in that kind of, there you go, 3.4K and 11K. Next one is the SSL saturator. Just basic saturation, really. There's lots and lots of different ways of doing this. I just really kind of like the sound of this one in this instance, so I think that works. After that, the old favourite, Oxford inflator. Just a little bit of polish, a little bit more bite in the upper mids. Yeah, again, not too much. Layering this with the chords. The chords are, if I'm right, track 3, yeah, basically sit in the exact same channel. So they're not processed any differently. They're both sent to the same mixer track. And then the last one we have is obviously the pads. So the pads on their own would sound something like this. Let's see if you can hear, if you listen closely, if you've got a good set of headphones, if you can hear what the pads essentially bring to the mix. It feels empty without them. Like they really kind of sit in their own space and just take up this kind of lower mid-ish kind of space really well, I think. See, I really kind of like where they're sitting and where they sound, how they sound. Just a few things on this. So we have EQ. This is essentially just cutting out the lows and this resonant frequency. Next, we have essentially a kind of distortion plugin. Gives it a bit of fizz and a little bit of movement as well. And then you've got Waves H comp. Just to kind of give it and make it smooth it out, because it does seem to be, obviously with all the distortion and stuff, and you can see here from the waveform, it's not a very, it's quite a lot of range in there for something that's not actually doing that much. So I felt like I definitely need the compression, and then that all gets sent through to kind of like a main riff bus essentially, which has got another EQ on it, just a slight boost and a cut obviously, and then a limiter. So let's see how hard this limiter has to work. This is just looking to cut the tops off, so kind of limit the very, very, very tops of the peaks. Just quickly, we have I've set up 3 sends, essentially a reverb, a short reverb, and a delay send. To be honest with you, these reverbs I had to redo because my old plugin decided it didn't want to work anymore, so I had to just change that just for the sake of this video. So they're not the original ones that I used in the original track that you'll hear if you buy it or if you listen to it on YouTube. So I just had to basically recreate those. The last kind of section, so all of the acid, the intro riff, the main riff, it's all going through to one kind of final leads bus. And there's quite a fair bit of processing on here, but everything here kind of makes sense. So the first thing we have here is track spacer. Now this is linked to, right though down here, I've got SC kick, which stands for sidechain kick. So it's essentially a ghost channel that sends a signal and tells the waves, the track spacer where it's stuck. You don't want to overdo it. I find this is something that can really kind of just hollow out your sounds if you use too much. So I went with 8%. So let's see if you can hear the difference. It's definitely one of those things that you want to be really gentle with. I mean, even there, and listening back to it, my brain is now telling me, oh, 8% is too much. You should have taken less. But obviously it's done now. The tune's finished. But this kind of thing you could also be here tweaking forever and a day. But that's definitely a plugin that is worth kind of putting on some buses. Next, EQ, just to kind of carve out again, because all of these reverbs and stuff could definitely bring back some unwanted low frequencies and stuff like that. The next bit we have is sidechainer. cable guys volume shaper to be precise. I set this at 50 because I didn't want it to be too pumping. So there are definitely transients of the leads that will come through now. Whereas if you put it 100%, you kind of get that really kind of pumping sidechain sound, and you lose kind of the you lose a lot of the attack. So let's see if we can hear the difference. See how you get all of the attack, but it just sits on the kick. Whereas it kind of just sits above it when the sidechain is on. Next one we have bus compressor. The way I've set it with the gain with the makeup gain, it's just so that it kind of matches its input volume. I definitely feel like you can hear kick and bass better with it on as well. And the smile is just in a build up, so it's not part of the mix, so we're going to ignore that. This should also be taking off, kind of just clipping the very tops of the signals from all of the leads. You can see here in the gain reduction, it's not even taking off less than a dB. And last thing is balance, but that's just for automation. That's not actually part of the mix. So next up, we're going to look at the breakdown bits. So your pad, your bells, and your vocals. So we'll start off with the pads. This is just literally 2 layers, a bass drone and a vocally pad with a gate on. 2 sounds, 1 EQ. Have a listen to the difference this makes. You can hear some really unpleasant frequencies in there without those cuts. And the only other thing we added was an imager, just to kind of make it a bit wider, because initially I felt it was just a bit too centered. See what I mean? There's no real width there. Next thing we're going to look at is the bells. This is just a simple preset that we found on Zeta, I think it was. Really old plugin. And yeah, it just worked really well. Quite creepy, kind of fits the mood. It was rendered with the delay, I believe, but the delay is just really good. It's like, just does the job. Only a few things on here. EQ, just cutting off the tops. And another imager just to, and this one, make it a bit more mono. Look at how all over the place this sound is with, what is that, a 30% mono setting, 30% narrowed. Imagine what that was like. In fact, we can show you if we just... set it to 0. This is, yeah, this is, look at that anti-phase, look at it. It's everywhere. And then if you just put it down to 30%, you really reduce a lot of that. Not all of it, of course. We didn't want the sound to be completely monoed, but just to kind of give a good contrast and sit well with the rest of the pads. The last section of this was the vocal. So this came when I rendered it. I basically rendered it with a reverse vocal sitting underneath it. So solo, you're just going to kind of hear all these kind of like really cool reverse effects in the background. Take a listen.
Overflowing, and Satan is sending his dead to us. Why? You have sex out of wedlock.
It's the kind of thing you hear in like movies, usually kind of villains or maybe, you know, supernatural stuff like that, you know, kind of that kind of effect. In this project, however, there are a few more changes I've made to this vocal. Let's just put in all the other sounds just so that we can kind of decide for ourselves on the mix kind of if it works or not. So let me just repeat this. So the first bit I have here is EQ, just cutting out the bottoms.
Hell is overflowing, and Satan is sending his...
Next one is bus compressor, slightly different one.
Hell is overflowing, and Satan is sending his dead to us. Why? Hell is overflowing, and Satan is sending his dead to us. Why?
Because the original sample was rendered completely uncompressed, and I just wanted to squash it a bit, basically because these I always have problems with the vocals. I find that the vocals in breakdowns will just end up being kind of really loud in comparison to the breakdown and also the whole track, to the point where I sometimes have vocals that are almost as loud as the track in its loudest parts, which doesn't really bode well for mastering, I found. And the last, which is why the last part I put on this was a limiter.
Hell is overflowing, and Satan is sending his dead to us. Why? Hell is overflowing, and Satan is sending his dead to us.
Really kind of lets me push the sound a bit, make it louder. And that's it. That's the walkthrough finished. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something. I hope that was useful. As usual, if you have any questions, please do leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer. I am officially back now. I mean, I never really left. I was just taking a break to renovate the house and build this new studio that still isn't finished, but don't get me started on that. Yeah, so a lot more should be coming on this YouTube channel, so please like the video, subscribe, share it if you can on your socials. Sample pack will be out next week. You can start to expect to see some demos coming soon to see kind of what it sounds like in the coming days, so keep your ears peeled. Yeah, and that's everything from me. I'm happy to be back. Sorry again, and I'll see you again soon.